After nearly 3 decades covering the Buffalo Bills, this guy knows what he's talking about. Welcome to SalSpeak, the place to be for hard-hitting analysis from Sal Maiorana of the Democrat and Chronicle.
Hi everybody, I am Sal Maiorana and welcome to the latest edition of the Facebook Live version of the SalSpeak podcast. Today I'm joined by Jeff DiVeronica. Leo Roth is on vacation over the holidays here.
Doug Whaley is going to join us too. In case you haven't seen him lately, here he is.
Unlikely.
Only in paper version.
Devo, we're going to have to change my intro too because Rex Ryan is no longer the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, and this kind of bums me out because say what you want about Rex Ryan as a coach, and he certainly had his faults in his 2 years with the team, but Rex was a fun guy to deal with as an NFL coach. Very few guys get it in the media like Rex did. So from a personal and professional standpoint, dealing with him, he was a good guy to deal with, and I think he is a genuinely good-hearted person, but it just didn't work in Buffalo, and the Pagulas have decided that they're going to move on with 3 years left on the contract, $16.5 million. They'll have to pay Rex to be on CBS or NBC or whatever network he goes to next year. Jeff, it's been a ridiculously tumultuous week for this franchise.
Makes the bickering Bills look pretty tame.
A franchise that really should be used to it by now because there's constant chaos over there at One Bills Drive, and this week has taken it to a new level. We'll start with the Miami game last week because ultimately this is what drove the final nail in Rex's coffin, I think. They've got to win the game to stay alive in the playoff chase. And even before that game ended, it ended up turning out that everything the Bills needed to have happened.
Yeah,
so all they had to do was
story you told me I shouldn't have written actually would have survived another week.
I know, you're right. Everything happened that was supposed to happen, and the Bills just needed to take care of business. And Jeff, you weren't at the game Saturday, but in the press box, with 4 minutes to go in overtime, and the Bills have 4th and 1 at their own 41, knowing they got to win, a tie does them no good, he decided to punt. He willingly gave the ball back to the Dolphins with 4 minutes to go, which effectively gave the Bills no chance to win because the Dolphins.
They could have stopped them.
They could have stopped them.
And still have to go down and.
But even then, you figure more time would have been wasted, and I just don't think the Bills would have had enough time.
And the key here was your offense that day. The Bills' offense had 580-something yards racked up, and he put his trust in the defense, which couldn't stop the Dolphins. So, again, it just spoke to his own coaching to lose, not to win.
And it also spoke to he has always had this undying faith in his defense because he's a defensive guy first, and he just totally ignored what was happening that day in that game. Ultimately, Jay Ajayi goes 57 yards. The Dolphins win the game.
Against 10 men.
Yeah, against 10 men. Another coaching gaffe. So it was just a complete crumbling in that Miami game. And I do believe that the decision was already made. I was kind of holding out right through this thing that, hey, if they can win out, get to 9-7, even if they aren't in the playoffs, why would you fire the guy after an 8-8 and a 9-7 with what I think, Jeff, is not the most talented roster? People, I think, overrate this Bills roster.
And some key injuries.
And they had a lot of injuries. I just didn't understand why you fire him, but he pushed me over the edge. The game on Saturday really, to me, spoke to Rex's in-game management problems. Mismanagement. He's not a good in-game coach, and they were not prepared. They're not as prepared, I should say, as an NFL team should be. And these are some of the things that drove him out of New York, too. So, anyways, long story short, they fire Rex Ryan.
So you think it was decided weeks ago?
I think the rumors were true, that they had grown tired of some of the antics that had gone on with the Bills inside the team.
So you think they fired him Tuesday, right?
The losing to the Raiders and Steelers, I think, cemented it.
I think what he said Monday also factored in to do it Tuesday. What he said Monday to the media was, I do the same thing again. I punt the ball again.
Well, actually, a couple things he said Monday led to this, but
I think that was the. I don't think the game was the final straw. I think the final straw was what happened Monday with him basically saying, I was right. It's not your livelihood sitting. You're sitting in the press box and you're questioning me. You would have done the same thing if you were the coach of the Bills, and we all agree that maybe almost every coach in the league probably wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, exactly. He was actually pointing that at me, too. He got aggravated with me in the post-game press conference because I posed that question, and I basically didn't have time to say, no, you're wrong. Every coach would have kept the ball in that situation because you had to win. Anyways, I think after the Raiders loss and the Steelers loss, they had made the decision that we're going to move on, even if they had one out. And when they went and beat Cleveland, fine. And if they'd beaten Miami and the Jets on Sunday, I still think they were going to make the move. And again,
and I wouldn't have agreed with it. If they went 9-7, I wouldn't have agreed with it.
Like
either.
I said, if they had won the Miami game and he had not botched it the way he did, you've read me all year. You've seen that I've been one of the lone voices saying that I don't know why you'd fire this guy. But I started to see the error of my ways, I guess, with that Miami game. So they make the move. Monday at his press conference, Jeff, as you mentioned, he said he defended the punt once again, which was just unconscionable. You can't defend, even with 24 hours to think about it. You know, the Christmas holiday, you're sitting there at Christmas dinner. He admitted he had a miserable Christmas because of the loss. Like, how could you still defend your punt? So that was a dumb thing to do. And then what ultimately cost him, I think forced him out the door on Tuesday. I think they would have fired him after the Jets game.
I know what you're going to say.
Is when he said, I'm playing Tyrod Taylor. Now, look.
It ain't my $27.5 million. That's basically what he was saying.
We all know this story has been out there. Everyone knows that if Tyrod Taylor were to get hurt at the end of the year, the Bills are on the hook for $27.5 million, whether he's on the team or not next year.
Well, who put that clause in there?
Well,
Doug Whaley?
Jim Overdorf and Doug Whaley apparently agreed to that contract clause. So anyways, he says he's going to play Tyrod. Well, of course, Rex wants to play Tyrod. He wants to get one more win on his record, and if he thought he had any chance of keeping his job, and I think deep down Rex knew he was going to get fired anyways, but as soon as he said that, the Pagulas, Whaley, Brandon, whoever you want to pin it on, said, nope, we got to fire him because we're not putting Taylor out there. We're going to put EJ out. We're not risking it. And that also spoke to me, Jeff, too, that I think they've made their mind up on Tyrod Taylor. I mean, if he's going to be their quarterback next year, they're going to pay him anyways. So
but do you want to pay him $27.5 million?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Do you really think Tyrod Taylor and his agent think he can go somewhere else and get the kind of money the Bills are going to pay him, even if they do renegotiate?
It's possible. This is a quarterback-starved league.
True.
There are teams that...
Which is why I say don't move away from him yet.
Well, there's an argument for and an argument against keeping Tyrod. You know me. I've been in the boat where I've seen enough from Tyrod. I don't think it's going to work in Buffalo, but I could see him, for instance. There's already been some speculation on Twitter today. Him going to Denver. I mean, Denver would be a good landing spot for Tyrod Taylor. That team has a good defense. They underachieved this year, but they've got a good defense, and that's what he needs, is a good defense to be the complement on offense. That'd be a good spot for him, and Elway would probably pay him because he does have a track record. He's played 2 years in Buffalo. He's piled up some numbers, but I just don't see it working in Buffalo. To me, there's just too many problems with his game, and I think the Bills are going to move on. And like I said, by them
you and I both agree with this. A better defense, not even a lot better, a little bit better defense, they're in the playoffs.
They would be.
With Tyrod Taylor having a very mediocre season and without having Sammy Watkins for most of the season. So I don't think this roster as it's constituted right now is as far off as people think. So that's why I don't think massive changes to the roster are in order. If you can't get somebody better than Tyrod Taylor and they have some time to figure that out, then I say bring him back.
Well, it's possible. They could bring him back in a renegotiation.
So you don't think EJ's in the car? He's gone.
I don't think EJ's coming back. I'm sure.
Which is fine.
He's only playing that whole quote yesterday from Anthony Lynn. We want to check the depth at that position. That's complete BS. They know what they have in EJ Manuel. They also know he's a free agent, and he probably isn't coming back. EJ's playing because they're not going to risk putting Tyrod Taylor out there.
All right. Do they think highly enough of Cardell Jones that we let Taylor be the quarterback one more year and Cardell's ready?
But Jeff, you can't let him be the quarterback for one more year because if you bring him back, it's a two-year commitment.
And a lot of money.
Because of the money. And it is a lot of money to pay that guy. So that's why this whole situation with him being benched this week, I think, spoke to me that they have made the decision. They're not going to bring him back. They're going to move on. Now, is it possible that they cut him before the March 11th, the new league year starts on March 11th, and try to renegotiate a lesser deal?
That's what I think they should do.
That's possible. but I don't think Taylor would agree to that. I think Taylor and his agent would basically say, screw you, I'm going to go test myself in the market. And like I said, he will get contract offers.
Do you think Anthony Lynn wants him as his quarterback?
I think Anthony Lynn likes Tyrod Taylor, but it certainly isn't going to be Anthony Lynn's call. At least not until he gets the job. He hasn't got the job yet. He's the interim head coach for now.
All right, let's keep rolling on that. Do you think Anthony Lynn is going to get the head coaching job?
I think there's a better than 50% chance that he'll get it. I think they do like him. I'm not quite sure what the attraction is. I mean, he was promoted to offensive coordinator, started the year as the running backs coach. He took over the offense. Now, granted, it's Greg Roman's playbook, and he really couldn't do a whole lot because they had to stick with what they had trained for. He did some tweaks here and there and put his spin on some things. But really, I mean, was I convinced that Anthony Lynn...
The reverse call with Reggie Bush should have been that alone, right? That should have been we're not hiring this guy as our head coach. Reggie Bush should not have been playing.
Was I convinced that in the 13 games that he's been the coordinator, he is going to be, a difference maker as the head coach? No, of course I wasn't. He's never been a head coach at any level. So to me, I think that's not what the Bills should be doing. I think the Bills need to get a head coach, a younger guy, but I think they need a guy who has had NFL head coaching experience. I really do.
I think
I know what
you
want.
Bring in Coughlin
you want
for
Coughlin
3 or 4 years.
Coughlin is not coming to Buffalo.
Well,
with
Doug
Whaley. With Doug Whaley in charge of the roster, I highly doubt that Tom Coughlin's going to sign up for that.
And I think that's the wrong move. I mean, it seemed like the tea leaves were in place that maybe they could, there was something behind the scenes. I thought they were letting Rex twist and not firing immediately to try to get in line to go get the best head coach because they knew they were going to get Coughlin. He had a handshake with Terry Pagula, and I don't need to get Rex out of here and get in line before the Jaguars and everyone else because I already got Coughlin in my pocket.
Yeah.
Now, bringing Whaley back, Whaley and Coughlin ain't going to stand for that.
No. That's what I mean.
Not unless they bring Coughlin in and say, Whaley, you answer to him, which would then Whaley would want to get out of Dodge.
This is why I think Anthony Lynn is probably the number one candidate. Because they know that Anthony Lynn will follow orders from Doug Whaley. He's going to have to. If he wants a head coaching opportunity, that's how it's going to have to happen.
But isn't he going to get run elsewhere? You just said Lynn will get interviews elsewhere.
I think he will get interviews elsewhere. I do. Because he had a couple last year. Miami and San Francisco, I think.
So if he leaves and they want him, they're already, as enough, the term's been out there enough, dumpster fire. If he leaves, a guy and they want him, and he goes elsewhere, they might as well just put Whaley as the head coach, because who are they going to get to come in and coach his team?
Well, that's a problem. With Doug Whaley still in charge here, it's going to limit their pool of coaches they could bring in, because most of these big-name guys, for instance, a guy that I would definitely advocate coming in here as the head coach would be Josh McDaniels of the Patriots, and because he fits the criteria of what I think the Bills need. He's been a head coach.
What about Patricia, the defensive coordinator?
No, let me finish the point.
Go ahead.
On McDaniels, he's been a head coach at Denver. It did not go well, but
he's also 33 years old.
He was young, and I think he learned some lessons. He's got some experience in that role now. He's gone on, worked for the Patriots. He's learned from Belichick now. He's been a tremendous offensive coordinator. Helps that he has Tom Brady. I get that. But there's the kind of guy that I think would fit well with the Bills. There is some talent on the offensive side, even without maybe the top-end quarterback. They've got some talent to work with. You bring him in, you bring in a top-flight defensive coordinator, because I don't know where that's going to come from.
Schwartz back.
Maybe you bring Jim Schwartz back, who knows.
What about him as a head coach?
No. To me, Jim Schwartz failed in Detroit. I don't need to see that.
Okay.
He's a good,
What about Todd Haley?
He's a very good defensive
He's been a head coach.
Todd Haley is another guy who fits my criteria.
Okay.
Todd Haley is another guy who's coached. He failed. He learned some lessons. He's in a great system in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Good people that work there. Unfortunately, Whaley's from there too. The Bills got the bad end of the stick there. Donahoe and Whaley were both Pittsburgh guys. Didn't work out for the Bills. I think that's another guy. But I think if the Bills are going to go head coach, Anthony Lynn to me does not fit. This team is going to be, it's not a complete tear down rebuild situation because there is talent here. But I think they need a guy who's got some experience. Anthony Lynn doesn't cut it for me.
Let's look at some questions.
Yes.
And as you do that, something that we ran a graphic in the Democrat Chronicle print edition, and it was all the head coaches that have been with the Buffalo Bills, the number of games they've coached this team. And I think only 4 men have ever coached more than 50 games. Obviously, Marv Levy, Hank Bulla, Chuck Knox. Duran's the only one that doesn't really belong on that list.
Right.
Everybody else has been under 50 games, which to me means, what is the deal? I mean, the coaches here feel such pressure to win or ownership that they don't want to give a coach a fair shake and enough time to implement his system.
Yep.
What
have I been saying right along here? Stop.
I didn't think Wade even made it that long.
Stop hitting the reset button.
Right.
They do it every 2 or 3 years, and they can't get anywhere. So that was why I wanted Rex to continue on at least for the 3rd year.
What do we got here? Let's take a Jim Haslett. He's still in this league?
Jim Haslett. Oh, these people come up with these. They want Gruden to coach.
So you don't want
they want Bill Cowher to coach. They want Jim Kelly.
What about Reich?
To be the GM.
Frank Reich.
Oh, for crying out loud! Another one, Frank Reich.
No head coaching.
What has he done? What has he really done?
A couple years with the Chargers.
Okay, he's with the Eagles now. What have they done?
Agreed.
Outside of leading the greatest comeback in NFL history, and he's a Buffalo, a product of the Bills' glory days.
Some pretty good years.
Whatever. I don't want to hear Frank Reich.
Okay, go ahead. Well, let's see what the questions have.
We got a few. We did already discuss this. Bradley Bedell. We didn't discuss this, but can the Miami game drill the nail in Carpenter's coffin? Dan Carpenter.
Oh, absolutely.
The kicker. Yeah, I think they're going to move on.
If he makes one of those kicks, we're talking about the Bills still having a chance in the playoffs.
Well, the biggest one was the one in overtime, because that would have given them. That was the first possession of overtime.
They would have had to hold him. Yeah,
they would have had to hold him, but if he had made it, they would have been in pretty good shape. You would have think. So yeah, I think Carpenter. They're going to move on.
6
from Carpenter.
Extra point misses in 2 years. Yeah, it's time.
No, 11.
Oh, I'm sorry, 11. 6 this year.
6 last year, 5 this year.
Sorry, I got my numbers wrong.
Yeah. Diane Falsight says the whole thing is a disaster. Yes, Diane, we just covered that. And there's more to come. Stay with us. All right, Andy Hart. Whaley has to go. Absolutely. Let's see.
It's pretty clear he's not going.
No, it looks like he's not going to go.
Okay, so here's my question. With a guy look at the Pegulas, great things they've done for Buffalo. Clearly now I think they're showing that their lack of experience running a professional team, even though they've run the Sabres for many years now, and the Bills, is showing up. Now, a guy who in the front office, who we both know, and I know him pretty well too, Russ Brandon, no one consulted with Russ Brandon and said, hey Russ, from a marketing and PR perspective, should Terry or Kim and Doug be at the press conference after Rex has been fired?
So you want to go here right now?
I want to go there right now because
you want to tune me up right now.
I think it's, like one of your words, unconscionable that Terry, Kim Pegula, and Doug Whaley, none of them were there. They walked out, Anthony Lynn on the plank, and said, take the bullets for us.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, and we both know Russ knows better than this.
Well, you would
from a marketing, PR standpoint, Russ would have said to them, one of you needs to be there.
Yep.
How could that happen?
Or, Berchtold could have said something too. But they sent Mark Preisler, who's the PSE media guy. He was there to observe.
Pegula Sports Center? Okay, yeah.
Right. He was there apparently representing the PSE to observe Anthony Lynn, and I don't know why else he was there. Anyways, what we're talking about is yesterday, Anthony Lynn's first press conference as the head coach, as the interim head coach. Every Wednesday, Rex Ryan or any coach comes out, meets with the media before practice. In this situation, the game is meaningless. Nobody wanted to. Nobody cared about what they're going to do for the Jets game. The whole line of questioning was regarding the firing of Rex Ryan. Do you think this is an audition for you? And then the Tyrod Taylor issue, because Anthony Lynn was left to announce that E.J. Manuel was going to start. Doug Whaley was in the building and did not feel the need.
Oh, he was there.
He was seen in the building. Did not feel it was necessary for him to come out and speak to the media. Instead, Anthony Lynn, who had nothing to do with A, the firing of Rex Ryan, B, the financial decision to bench Tyrod Taylor, and C, just shouldn't have been out there at all because it was not his responsibility.
Well, maybe the second part of the press conference, we're going to talk to Anthony Lynn.
They could have been out there together or whatever, but Doug Whaley needed to be front and center answering questions, because the Pegulas aren't going to do it. That's just not their style. They are not going to meet the media. They're going to leave it to their underlings, and Doug Whaley is the number one underling. Well, Russ Brandon, I guess, is, but from the football side, Doug Whaley's the guy who needs to
Russ
speak.
would have been able to handle it. I don't know if
Russ
Doug
would have
Whaley
been able
could
to handle
have.
it. Doug Whaley needed to be the guy, though.
Right, agreed.
To do this. He was not there, as you said, as I said, a totally unconscionable PR screw-up. And Anthony Lynn was left twisted in the wind, and at one point, he said the decision to bench Tyrod was ours. And then we followed back on that, and he admitted, well, I wasn't in the meeting room. That wasn't my decision. And then he even said, which made the Pagulas and Whaley look even worse, the owner and the GM should speak for themselves. Yeah, they should have been speaking for themselves, but they didn't.
A little read between the lines that maybe Anthony Lynn doesn't want to stay here.
Well, maybe not. He will get interviews. I'm not sure. Again, he didn't get the 49ers job. He didn't get the Dolphins job. Chip Kelly and Adam Gase got those jobs, two decent candidates. I don't know what Anthony Lynn's future is, but like we just said earlier in the podcast, I think he has a better chance of keeping the Bills job than he does to go out and get another job. Whether he wants to do that and be part of this dumpster fire, as you said, I don't know. I don't know enough about the guy to know what he's actually thinking.
How can these owners be so tone deaf to this? They're smart people. They made a lot of money,
they're very
not by
smart
being
people.
dumb. How can they be so tone deaf to what the fan base wants, which is a new general manager? And again, his track record with the draft is very sketchy at best. I do like some of the free agent signings. I know people get mad at the Watkins. They gave up too much for Watkins. I don't know if they'd be saying that if they had a guy that could get him the ball. And again, he's been injured. I get it. Is this going to be a recurring thing the rest of his career? Who knows? Maybe just guys had a run of bad luck. I mean, he was a pretty durable guy in college,
Well,
wasn't
he just had a run of bad luck.
So, but I'm saying
But that trade right now does not look good.
No, it doesn't.
And it didn't look good the day they did it either, Devo.
But if you had a good quarterback, it probably would look a lot better right now.
You make that trade in the draft to go get a quarterback. That's the only thing you give up a future first-round draft pick for, is if you're going up to draft a quarterback.
They had Taylor, though, right?
No, they didn't have
they
Taylor.
didn't. Oh, this is the EJ. I'm sorry, they had
that
EJ.
Was the
that
EJ. That was the
era.
EJ Kyle Orton, fiasco of 2014. That was a dumb move, and that was Whaley's.
Again,
that was Whaley's move. That's his signature move. So
there
far.
are times when I think though that you and I could throw the ball up and let Watkins go get it, and then be okay.
I
they have
agree.
a quarterback now who, even though I'd like to see the guy come back, he needs to show some more stones and put the ball up in the air and say, "Make a play for me, guys."
I agree.
So,
all right, let's.
But yeah, Whaley, I don't know. I just can't believe they're so tone deaf.
I'm going to take a few more questions here because we're already 22 minutes into this, which is, man, that went fast, Devo.
Tyrod is part of the problem, but they have the number 7 offense in the NFL. An average defense makes this a playoff team. Agree with that. It's still stunning to me that they have the number 7 offense in the
Yeah, they've
NFL.
piled up some. They've piled up some yards, some garbage time yards too.
Right.
Devo, I keep going back to this. You can make the numbers say whatever you want. Ultimately, though, the Bills under Tyrod Taylor beat one playoff team.
Right.
They beat, and that team stinks. They beat Houston last year. That's the only team they beat in 2015.
Right. Asterisk on the Patriots this year.
That went to the playoffs. Right. And this year, Patriots, Jacoby Brissett.
Right.
This year, 1-7, I think it is right now, against playoff teams. They have 7 wins, 6 of them. The combined record of those teams is like, I may not have updated this, but it was 17, 65, and 2. Oof. They beat the 4 worst teams in the NFL.
Right.
Right? They beat the Jaguars, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Browns. So, okay.
Who is he beating? Yeah,
who is he
beating?
Point. How good is this offense really? I'm not really sure about that.
Let me add this guy here. Hiring Rex was a mistake from the get-go.
Joe Alberti, by the way. You're supposed to give the guy some run here when you answer a
disagree
question.
with him. Why hire a coach who hasn't won, and then his brother? The brother I totally disagree with. He shouldn't have been hired. I agree.
Rex did win early.
No, Rex. I'm saying shouldn't have hired his brother. It was a recipe for disaster. They put too much faith in Rex. I thought Rex was a great guy, a great hire at the time. He was the hot candidate out there.
I agree.
And he did win. He took the Jets to 2 AFC championship games.
He made his name as a defensive coordinator with the Ravens, and they had Hall of Fame talent on that defense, but still, the Ravens defense in the 2000s was spectacular. He goes to the Jets, goes to the AFC championship game with Mark Sanchez as his quarterback.
Which is shown now what.
So Rex certainly got off to a great start. Then it started to go downhill because he had problems with management. The general manager, John Idzeg, and him did not get along. They had many disagreements on personnel, and the whole thing started going downhill slowly but surely for 4 years. Didn't make the playoffs.
Only took 2 here.
And then he comes to Buffalo, still has his defensive reputation intact, because even in the Jets' declining years, they were pretty good on defense. They weren't as good as they were the first 2 years, but they were still a pretty formidable defense. Mm-hmm. Now in Buffalo, I thought it was the right hire for sure. You remember what I said back in 2015? Hey, this totally shocked me that the Bills actually got a big-name coach, and they're going to pay big-time money.
Which they
never used to do.
Right.
So I was all for the hiring. Yeah, he's a cad. He is. He's a boastful braggart. I get it. He's a goofball, but the guy could coach. Now, in 2 years...
And he could help him sell tickets.
For sure. They set a franchise record last year for most season tickets sold, over 60,000.
Right.
So it was a great move for many reasons. It didn't work out. It did not work out. But don't tell me it was a mistake from the beginning, because it wasn't. And
Agreed.
still, his record in 2 years is the best record, percentage-wise, of any coach since Wade Phillips. So throughout the entire playoff drought, he has the best record, 15 and 16. Better than Marone. Marone was 9-7, and I think 6-10 the first year.
But now the national people on the outside look and say, you got a GM that ran out Doug Marone and ran out Rex Ryan.
Yeah, so who's going to want to come here and coach? I don't know. Whaley couldn't get along with Marone or Ryan. Is he going to get along with the next guy?
They didn't even need to even say Doug Whaley's going to lead the coaching search. They could have just said nothing, like they have been doing.
They're the Bills.
But they put it out there, so then to now create a new controversy over why is Whaley staying? It just wasn't smart, and yet we know there's a guy there. And again, let me just say this publicly. I don't think Russ Brandon really has much say in football decisions anymore. He has over the last few years. I don't get it when people attack. Yes, there was a time when he had a football say, when Ralph trusted no one else but Russ Brandon,
right.
And he made some mistakes. But now it's not. It's Doug Whaley and the football guys. Does Russ have input? Absolutely. But is he making the final call on some of these things? No way. No. So
people blame Rex for drafting players and hiring coach. It wasn't Russ's ultimate call. Hey, the Pagulas
he's
fired
doing his
Rex
job,
Ryan.
right? Marketing and it's corporate sales. If anyone's doing their job there, Russ Brandon is. He's selling hope, and it's working.
Yeah, he does. They do sell hope like no other franchise in history. All right.
Hope is the best thing, Sal.
You want to wrap this up?
Redemption, yeah.
We've got a lot of questions that we can't
Really?
get to them all.
Okay.
So we're going to
Pick
wrap
out one
it up.
more good one.
One more good one?
I don't think
Let's
it's a
see.
question. Who has whiffed worse, the Bills D or the front office in the draft for the last 3 years?
That's a dead heat, isn't it? It kind of is. They've had one of the worst drafting records in the NFL. Tim Graham of the News wrote a kind of a definitive piece, and I can't quote the numbers because I don't recall, but they're one of the worst drafting teams in the point of how many guys are still with the team.
Right.
Like for the last 5 years or whatever, they're like one of the lowest percentages in the NFL. Tells you a lot about how they're drafting.
7 years, Doug
7
Whaley.
years, Doug Whaley. All right, we're going to wrap it up, folks. We've talked enough about this. My greatest regret is Monday. I'm not going to be able to get there in time for the Doug Whaley, the grand coronation of Doug Whaley on Monday, because I'm going to be driving back from New York.
This has to happen?
They've already announced he's going to speak to the media on Monday.
Leo gets that?
I guess Leo's going to get that.
Leo
But I hope my colleagues will roast Doug Whaley. I'm sure they will, but I probably won't be able to get back in time, so I'm kind of bummed about that. And it'll probably be the last time I see Whaley for 4 months.
FaceTime you in.
You think
Question
so?
from Sal Maiorana on FaceTime?
Yeah, while driving on the thruway, coming back from New York.
Oh, you pull over for that.
Would I? Okay. All right, we're going to take off, folks. For Jeff DiVeronica, I am Sal Maiorana. Thanks for being here on Facebook Live. If you want the audio version, go to iTunes and type in SalSpeak and subscribe to the podcast. I really appreciate all the followers I can get on the audio version of this. So until next week, I'm not sure you'll be here, but I will probably be back. Say bye to Doug Whaley and say goodbye to Tyrod Taylor and Rex Ryan too. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.